What if I told you that there was an experiment done on a paranormal subject?
Okay.
And they had over 15 well-respected scientists, including teachers at MIT, professors at the University of London, communications experts from NASA and other aerospace programs that were involved in testing a paranormal experiment, and none of them for the last 32 years has been able to debunk it, and many of them have become believers.
So the people's actually dead.
So yeah, like they're gonna try and talk with spirits, and they're doing physical mediumship. Mediums who contact the dead,
Okay.
and have them produce physical evidence that can be examined. Small points of lights would appear and go around the room intelligently. It would land on people's hands. It would go through people's chests and out the other side. Sometimes they said a couple of them would stop right in front of your face and almost be like eyes peering at you. People, skeptically of course, said, oh, okay, this is being faked. So what they did next was scientists who were brought to the experiments were asked to bring their own roll of film. It didn't matter what camera it was for. It doesn't matter what type of film it was. Bring it factory sealed to the experiment. And when they brought their film, people just freaking out simultaneously as these things are happening. They're not taking this like, oh, this is normal. This is normal. Like at one point they were able to manifest some kind of vaguely winged. Welcome to Deceptive Reality. Hello, Bert. How have you been this past week?
I mean, listen, in the grand scheme of weeks, I'm going to rank it up there. My daughter just graduated.
Woo, congratulations.
So we had a little party, little to do. So now I'm ready. I've got one that's not quite out of the house. She's still here, but we're trying to get her out. Okay. We're diving in. We're just like, get out of here, heathen child. But I don't know. We're just rocking it out. I tell everyone, the weekends is like when I get everything done, when I'm working on my stuff. I got that party. Mondays is my day to talk about the paranormal.
And this Monday is going to change your damn life.
I need a change, Nick. Trust and believe. I need all the changes I can get. A lot of people would tell you that too.
Well, actually, on second thought, this is going to reinforce your worldview, but it's kind of changed my worldview.
Okay.
This is going to blow your mind. Have you ever heard of something called the Scole Experiment?
I saw your notes on it. I've not read your notes, but I know at the top that's what it was called. But honestly, that's all I know about it.
Right. So what would it take, like just theoretically, what would it take, do you think, for someone to take an experiment and have it verified? And how many scientists would you have to say, well-known, respected scientists would have to agree with it before it would become world news and accepted and, something we'd hear about on TV?
Well, I know the way that it works right now is obviously scientists, when they come up with a new hypothesis or a theory on something, they typically get it published into a science journal.
Right.
And that's typically when all of academia kind of takes a look and goes, yeah, I can get behind that, or no. And typically that's when the arguments kind of go back and forth and they determine that, yeah, this makes sense, or, maybe we need to look at that. And I know that's how it works now, but I don't know what that number is.
Right. And as a second scenario, if something were unsure about an experiment and the experiment was repeated over a number of years, how many years do you think it would take of actively trying to debunk something before someone says, well, I just can't debunk this.
Oh, man. I don't know. I honestly don't know on that. I don't know what it would take. I mean, I would assume there's probably no limitation to that. I wouldn't assume.
So, what if I told you that there was an experiment done on a paranormal subject,
Okay.
and they had over 15 well-respected scientists, including teachers at MIT, professors at the University of London, communications experts from NASA and other aerospace programs that were involved in testing a paranormal experiment, and none of them for the last, how many years? 32 years has been able to debunk it, and many of them have become believers.
You said aerospace engineers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So is this like UFO based technology then?
Nope. What we're going to look into today is called the Scole Experiment.
Okay.
And it set out, let me go back a little bit. This happened in Scole, Norfolk, England in 1993. There was a group of 4 people, Robin Foy, Sandra Foy, Alan Pickering, and Diana Pickering,
Okay.
who set out, because they are researchers are on their own, and also mediums and that kind of thing. So they wanted to set out to try and determine if there was any way that they could prove the existence of life after death.
Okay. So like an NDE.
That no, not a near-death experience.
So how? Okay. So the people's actually dead.
So yeah, like they're gonna try and talk with spirits, and they're doing physical mediumship. Do you know what that means?
No, I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
That's like mediums who contact the dead.
Okay.
And have them produce physical evidence that can be examined or experienced.
Okay, back trolley up. So
okay.
So produce evidence. What do you mean by that?
So different things could produce evidence. Like, for example, I'm not going to give away the best ones.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stick around for that.
Okay.
But doing things like apportation, like making things appear out of thin air. Things like manifesting in the room with the people attending the seance. Voices that are recordable and intelligent from different parts of the room. Moving things without anyone touching it. Manipulating objects, and believe it or not, this is not the best one, partially physically manifesting.
So here's what I'll say about that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with even what we've dabbled into, there's the potential to have those different areas, if that makes sense, like the manifestation, like without giving too much away from our recent investigation, there was a point in time when I was really trying to figure out if the radiation device was climbing.
Right.
And if you remember, I said, I want you to scream at the top of your lungs at 3. And then I did the countdown, the 1, 2, or maybe I counted down 3, 2, 1. I can't remember. I either counted up or down. But at that, the number 1 or 3, whichever it was that was last, we noticed a differential in the radiation. Are you talking about things like that?
Things like that, but much more tangible.
Okay.
Like you would see a fully manifested spirit or an object right in front of you would appear out of nothingness and drop to the table or floor.
So just, okay. So, back trolley up just for a second.
Okay.
So
this is going to be one where we're going to do this a lot because this is going to be hard to believe when I get to telling you these things.
Well, and what I'm trying to understand is you're saying that they
Mhm.
did these things. Was it that because my assumption is whatever this quote unquote spirit or entity or whatever it might be, they would have to have an expressed interest to do that.
Yes.
So were they using equipment to increase their ability to do this? Or was this something that the whatever it was able to just do?
This was a mediumship group in the beginning.
Okay.
Later on, there's going to be a device introduced that really is going to knock your socks off.
Okay.
But I won't want to give that away too early either. But the first part, it's just 4 people doing mediumship and inviting people to witness it and challenge it.
Okay.
So, like I said, it starts in Scole. That's why it's called the Scole Experiment. If it was in Maine, it would have been the Maine experiment. But these 4 people got together and they said, if we don't have success right away, that's fine. But we're going to pick a specific place, which is the cellar beneath the farmhouse owned by Robin and Sandra Foy. We're going to meet here regularly. At first, it was weekly. And we're going to always do it here. And we're going to have these seances where we're going to try and contact the other side and let them know what we're trying to do, that we're trying to prove the existence, that life passes from here to the afterlife, that we persist after we die.
So I guess my question is, what made them decide that they wanted to do this?
Well, they were what was considered mediums before this.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's 2 sets of people here. But they decided, we've done this before. We think it's working, but let's try to get this scientifically down in the books. Let's try to make sure it's not something we're imagining. We believe this. The people who come to us believe this. Let's see if doing something in a certain place at a certain time produces any effects, and we can control it in this location. We have sort of scientific controls in place. It's always the same place. There's only one entrance and exit. We're going to have people witness it, and we're going to see what we can do. Can we get better at this over time? Can we produce more evidence over time? Are we wearing thin a part of the world that maybe it becomes easier to do this?
It kind of sounds
like that's what they set out to do.
It kind of sounds like it to a degree, kind of like what we did, because we was at the Wildwood before with the device that I wanted to put into the paranormal world. I kind of wanted to go back to the same spot anyway, because I understood enough to go, if we take this here, I kind of know what's going to happen. It's kind of somewhat controlled, even though it's not. It's more controlled than me going to Bob's house that says his house is haunted. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think along those same lines, where we continue to go there and everyone continues to go there and they feed into this, that it probably gathers strength over time.
Yeah.
Like if there's a place that's haunted, but no one ever goes there, maybe it never graduates to the next level.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So that's kind of the premise they were working under. So these were their goals. They wanted to demonstrate that consciousness survives bodily death. They wanted to establish reliable communications with deceased individuals.
Okay.
Produce physical evidence that could be observed by the researchers.
Okay.
Because they weren't just going to sit in a basement and do it themselves. They were inviting researchers over to try and pick things apart, find ways that they could exclude more false positives, and just really try to go at this from a more scientific route, a more provable route. They wanted to create new ways of communicating with the spirits of the dead.
Okay.
Things that people maybe never tried before or never knew about. But ultimately, they were looking for understanding of survival after death. They were fairly convinced already because they'd been mediums for a while. So they started to do this. And from the very beginning, they had numerous independent observers with them. They had researchers from the Society for Psychical Research. We've heard of them many times before.
Yeah.
They're not out there as believers trying to prove things. They're just trying to find evidence. And over the course of the next 5 years, they produced thousands of pages of notes, more than 1,000 pictures, and this is going to become important, pictures that would have been impossible to achieve, voice recordings, and they hosted whole groups of people that almost always had an experience after the first little bit. And scientists started coming along as well. So in the beginning, there were the 4 mediums. So there's Robin Foy I told you about before. This was the principal organizer. This is the one who got the idea in his head and said, hey, let's get together and do this. He did most of the documentation. He sort of acted as the spokesperson of the group. His wife was Sandra. She was the core medium in the group. She was actually the medium that would contact the departed. We had Alan Pickering, which was also one of the mediums. He participated in all the sessions. And Diana was Alan's wife, who assisted in seance work and communication sessions, but wasn't a medium herself, but also a core participant. So they were the 4 main people there. Now, the interesting thing is after doing this for a while, they started to have some success. So the early phase in 1993, they started pretty much how we started. Unexplained knocks or raps on things.
Okay.
So like knocking, like when you did the doot, 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 and you got that doot, doot. Well, that's what they started getting in the early phase in 1993. And then they started to get sort of like mild EVP, just like we get sometimes, just like other researchers get. And they did a lot of these sessions. They never missed one. They kept going on through that. Then, kind of to support their research, after doing it a while, it started to escalate.
Yeah.
So, interestingly, and this was witnessed by many people, small points of light about the size of a pea would appear in the darkness, because they did these in almost total darkness in the beginning. Small points of lights would appear and go around the room intelligently. It would land on people's hands. It would go through people's chests and out the other side. Sometimes they said a couple of them would stop right in front of your face and almost be like eyes peering at you.
Oh, wow.
So they would pass through solid objects. So they had a heavy oak table. That was, because everyone knows the tricks that people used to do in seances where they'd lift the table with their foot or something like that. So they got a very heavy oak table. And on top of that, the legs of the table made it so that were solid so that no one could touch each other's feet or do anything under the table. It was sort of like a big X under the table.
Yeah.
But these lights would pass through these. And some of the early scientists that were there said, well, these lights could be from fishing line and they could be little LEDs that someone's bobbing up and down.
Well, this was the
stuff
90s,
like
right?
Yeah.
Was LEDs even in the 90s?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep, they were around then.
I
don't think they're as
popular.
common as they are now. Like we buy 100 packs of them or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would have been difficult because they were in the cellar. It had a solid roof, and not to mention that these lights would sometimes drop onto the table and then pass through them, or these lights would go through people. And that's hard to do with LEDs. So that was sort of out of the question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So as I kept doing this, people were pretty amazed by that. And the investigators or the scientists or the engineers that were witnessing and trying to record things, they couldn't really explain that away. But then we get to another escalation phase where voices started to emerge from locations within the room that didn't have people in them.
Okay.
Now, at this stage, they started to come up with ideas like, oh, since we're doing this in darkness, someone's moving and speaking and we're just not hearing them move. So they started to equip people with glow-in-the-dark wristbands so they could see where everyone's hands were at all the time. So if they moved to the corner of the room, they're going to know it. But the voices continued. And multiple people who attended these heard the same thing. So it wasn't people thinking they heard a word or something like that. People could verify it amongst each other. And this is scientific folk who are not easily fooled or quick to believe in things. So eventually conversations were supposedly being held between the voices. But at this stage, they just couldn't quite make out what was happening.
Okay.
They couldn't quite make out the voices.
But they were recording them?
They were recording them, but they couldn't make out exactly what the voices were saying. But it was clear to everyone that it's voices because it's got that cadence.
Yeah.
That only comes from that.
But they weren't doing like spirit boxes. They were doing like actual tape recording and...
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't EVP. People in the room themselves could hear these things.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're psychic mediums. So I would assume they would all hear it if they were all psychic medium.
2 of them were psychic mediums, but this is being heard by the 2 mediums.
Yeah.
The 2 people that they're married to who are not mediums, and sometimes 1, 2, 5 researchers and skeptics who came to try and document and debunk these things.
See, if I was a debunker, I'd be like, man, y'all got some tape recorders up in this mug. I know you do. It's underneath the table.
Yeah.
It'd be the first
and
thing
they were allowed to inspect everything. The researchers were given full control to inspect the room with the people outside of it. They were allowed to search the people as they came in. They were allowed to set up any equipment they wanted. The only thing, and this is where skeptics got a lot of their motion from, is that the room had to be completely dark to do these experiments.
The question is why?
That is a good question. Now, they had said that until they get a stronger connection, it would disrupt the work they're trying to do. They said it would still happen, but instead of months, it might take years to get the energy levels up. And their intention was to let people record in the light once they had gotten the energy to a sufficient level.
Yeah, but these people would have to wait for years.
Well, if it's taken place in the dark while they ramp up, they expected it only to take months.
Yeah.
Instead of years. Keeping it in the light, they said would extend it to years.
But I wonder why. And how would they know that?
I think the mediums were probably told that from the spirits. Now, here's the next interesting thing. Now, this clearly escalates a lot more, but they were actually starting to get in touch with who they called the spirit team. Now, the spirit team was a group of 4 spirits on the other side that became aware of what they were trying to do and wanted to help prove that life continues after the body dies.
Mm.
So they had one called Blue, one called Noah, one who was a historical personality who wouldn't give their name, and one who was a deceased scientist. And they were trying to assist them from the other side.
It's like the movie Others.
I don't know if I've seen that. Is it kind of the same kind of scenario?
Michelle Pfeiffer?
Well, I know Michelle Pfeiffer. I've not seen it, though.
Huh. Was it Michelle Pfeiffer? I feel like I can't remember who it was. Maybe it wasn't Michelle Pfeiffer. I just gave away the entire plot of the movie, but in essence, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's no connection to that I'm aware of, but there is a connection. Do you remember a show called The Medium?
Yes.
So that lady who that was based off of is eventually evolved in this story.
Was it Jennifer Love Hewitt? Is that who I'm thinking of?
No, it's the blonde lady. Hold on, let me.
Oh,
look
you're
that
talking
up.
about the actual show with the medium.
Well, it was a fiction show, but it was based off of a real lady.
What am I thinking of? I'm just doing horrible today. Jennifer Love Hewitt was in a show that had ghosts or something.
The Ghost Whisperer.
That's what it was.
She was in. So I'll show you a picture of this lady, and you'll probably recognize this show.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. It's Nicole Kidman in The Others.
Oh, okay.
Not Michelle Pfeiffer.
So this is the show with Patricia Arquette in it.
I don't know that I know that show.
Okay. Well, this was based off of actual lady who was a medium called Alison Dubois, but she comes in later.
Mm-hmm.
But basically these spirits decided that they were going to try and help from the other side to show people that there was more to come after. Now, they told a lot of things about the afterlife that sort of you've talked about before, that we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that it is another dimension.
Okay.
And there's no such thing as bad people go to a fiery place or anything like that. What happens, they say, when you pass on is you're in a first realm and you don't know too much about what's going on. And when you first get there, you go and your life is reviewed with these beings that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't judge you. They remind you of all the good things and the bad things you did in your life. And the problem is, in this version of the afterlife, your thoughts become your reality. So if you have guilt about what you've done, you might torment yourself. Or if you've done good, it might be easier for you. But they say that the more you learn about where you are, you can move on to other dimensions. And it's just like, it's not something you go through. They say it's just like when you fall asleep and you wake up somewhere else. So they were getting a lot of information from this because the voices started to become more clear. They could communicate with them.
Yeah.
So the next things that started happening was objects moving around the room. So they could have objects that were already there and they'd get moved. And sometimes it was big movements. Like they placed on that table crystals all around the edge of it. And then also the glow tape like they had around their wrists. And the table lifted, turned on its side without any of the crystals falling off, and spun this very heavy table.
See, now this is where, see, you're going to get my brain going in deep, weird spots. I've always looked at the whole interdimensional thing as the most probable based on everything that I've seen. But like, they wouldn't know if there was a fiery place of hell unless they were there.
Oh, that's true. They seem to know a bit about the space they're occupying.
Yeah.
And about what's happening to the people around them. Now, spirits, just like people, could lie. They could be mistaken.
Yeah.
But what they seem to have witnessed is that thoughts where they are very real things. So you could think yourself to be living in a home, and you would be living in a home. They said some people have homes there. Some people wander. Some people are in rainstorms all the time. Some people are living through the worst moments of their lifetimes.
So, okay. So it's almost like a interdimensional within an interdimensional, because if one person was living in rain all the time, then everyone would be experiencing that. So it's almost like they're all in the same dimensional plane, but separate somehow.
Yeah, some kind of thing like that. Another interesting thing that they said is there's no more to be feared from death. Death is so more natural for people than they realize, that it's just a transition from one dimension to another. And even your life on Earth wasn't your first stop. Earth is a school, they said. They would compare it to a school.
Very weird.
Yeah. And they said if you learn enough where they are, that you will pass on to another dimension. And they said that's why it's hard for them to keep talking over long periods of time, because the more they learn about their situation, the more likely it is for them to basically move to the next dimension.
It's kind of weird.
Interesting stuff. It is kind of weird. So then the next thing they started doing, because they were starting to realize from both the spirit team and the mediums that they could do more things than they've ever been able to do before. So what had started happening is apportation. And that's where items from far away are sort of teleported into the room. So one person who was there had a locket from one of their dead relatives apported from their home onto the middle of the table.
How does that even make sense?
The only thing she could think of is her loved one had brought it there, and the spirit team had basically dropped it onto the table. Messages would appear in the room. They had newspapers fall into the room from 1942.
But this was occurring in the 90s, right?
In the 90s, 93, or probably 94 at this stage.
Okay.
And some debunkers said, well, I mean, they could have bought these newspapers and someone's throwing them into the middle of the room. But the scientists and the engineers and whoever was attending said, no, number one, no one's throwing any in the room unless it's one of us. We're the people who don't have the glow-in-the-dark wristbands on. And number two, this wasn't a newspaper someone purchased from 1942. This was in pristine condition.
See, now this makes me think of, I've always, and we've talked about this a little bit, I don't feel like time and space is the same. I think it's linear in whatever that dimensional plane is.
Right.
So it's like, if you want to be in 1942, then you just, you're there, you're in 1942.
Right. Right. And they also said that the thoughts are a very real thing in the other
Mhm.
dimension. So if you thought you were a spirit from 1942, everything around you would be that.
Which also fits with when they talk about people that's passed on, how a lot of times when they do come through, they don't come through at the same age as when they passed away. They typically will come back
Right.
from like if I had a choice, I would be 1930s Bert. or
Yeah.
or the 30s Bert, should I say, from the 30-year to 35-year range. Like that
Oh,
was,
okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
if I was not the 1930s Bert, I'm not a vampire.
Right.
I can't do that. But
Right.
the 30s Bert, because I feel like I didn't look old and I could move around,
Right.
relatively decently, unlike now
Mhm.
where things slow down and, our bodies slow down a little bit. So I guess, again, if your thought process is you want to be in your 30s, who's to
Mhm.
really stop that from happening in whatever that realm is?
Well, I don't even know if you could control that thinking because I think a lot of people build a lot of memories at a certain time in their life and a lot less from other times that maybe they don't enjoy as much. Like,
Yeah.
look at this nostalgia from the 80s. Like, if you spent your teenage years in the 80s and you passed away, you'll probably remember yourself more as how you were then.
Yeah, you're probably right. I've heard mediums talk about this a decent amount, and I don't do a ton of research on psychic mediums or clairvoyant, or, I'm very, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm a little skeptical.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to believe. I mean, biblically, it says that, mediums obviously exist. We're told to stay away from them. But, when I have watched things or researched things, especially with psychic mediums, they do talk about how when they're making that connection to whatever, right, whatever's on that
Hmm.
other side, they will oftentimes talk about how, let's say someone just recently passed away, they're not going to have the knowledge to even know how to communicate.
Right.
So a lot of times someone else might have to come in and interpret for them to talk to a psychic medium.
Hmm.
So let's say Dolores just died, but
Right.
Dolores's niece goes to a psychic and it's like, I want to communicate with Dolores. It might be another great great aunt that's coming through that's helping Dolores
Mm.
talk to that person. I hear
Right.
that a decent amount. So I'm wondering if that's the case also for them, or if what I'm
Hmm.
trying to do is correlate things that I've already heard to see if
Right.
that's where this stuff is coming from.
Well, I think you're onto a good thing there because I mentioned earlier that sometimes people who are witnessing would have items from their deceased loved ones appear, but the
Yeah.
only people who were ever, or the I say people, but the only spirits that were actually communicating with the mediums and the people in that room
Mhm.
were the four that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
So they were probably helping others sort of prove this. One interesting thing that I saw, and I did watch a documentary about this earlier, is a lady had a necklace that was not only apported from her home, but it was also somehow etched with a picture of her and her daughter on it
Oh,
when
wow.
it appeared. So there's different things that they could do, and as things went along, it was almost like they were getting more powerful because this is such a regular thing. The voices actually started to become legible to people who weren't mediums,
Mm.
and they started to be able to hear what people said. Um, One particularly interesting event came shortly after they started to be able to manifest in like sort of semi glowing human shaped forms in the room.
Mhm.
Is at one point one of their spirit team was able to manifest their hand and their forearm into the room, and one of the people visiting touched it and it was solid, until they got to the elbow, and then there was nothing. So they could actually physically touch a hand, feel it up to the elbow, and then nothing. Their hand would just fall through it.
So it looked like that, or was there like something that made it look paranormal?
Well, it looked like a mildly glowing shape of a hand, and when they touched it, it was physical.
So
like
it was
skin.
glowing. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were able to briefly do things like that. Now, the crazy thing about this is I'm telling you all about this, but they recorded all these sessions, and you can hear people as each next thing progressed on different nights, different groups of people just freaking out simultaneously as these things are happening. They're not taking this like, oh, this is normal. This is normal. Like at one point they were able to manifest some kind of vaguely winged being that would move about the room. Yeah, a vaguely winged being. I saw a dramatization of that. And it looked like it did have wings, but you couldn't really tell on that. And people in the room were just freaking out.
Can you hear the wings flapping on the audio?
They couldn't hear any wings flapping. Now, keep in mind, I gotta portray that there's literally more than 1,000 hours of recording, so I have not listened to everything.
Yeah.
But this next part, they've not really figured it. So there's always theories. Like most of the people who came there have gone away saying, I don't understand how this could be faked. A lot of the scientists and different people from the sciences who went there said, and this is a quote for one of them, I cannot accept that life persists after death, but my only other explanation is almost equally insane. And that is that these people have telekinesis.
Huh.
So that's a pretty big admission from a science expert / skeptic. That the only way that they can explain away that they've gotten proof that life persists after death is by saying some other paranormal thing is real.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. You got my brain going like 50,000 miles. I'm not trying to be quiet, but I'm just trying to.
Oh, no. I can tell you're processing.
Yeah.
When I first heard about this, I had trouble processing it as well. And trust me, there's 2 more things coming up that are way crazier than this. Way crazier than what we've heard so far.
That's insane. The thing that I wish, and maybe we're going to cover it at some point, the thing that I wish I understood was how they're getting this to happen. Because here's the thing, right? Like when we're at the Wild West, and we talked about this, I think a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember if we did it on the podcast or not, but it's like, you go to these locations and you go, this is a REM pod. This is this device. This is that. They already know. If it's the same spirits and they've been there forever, they've heard this every single week at a minimum.
Right.
Probably 50 times.
Yeah.
So it's like, if these spirits already knew how to do these things, like moving things or whatever it may be, like why would they have now chose to do that? That's the only part that I'm struggling with. Well,
so here's the deal with this one. Number one, I guess the important thing to understand is, and it's kind of the question you asked is, how did they make the initial connection? And that is people channeling these spirits like a medium does. So that's the initial connection. Now, the other part is they couldn't do any of this stuff in the beginning. Like we're talking a couple years at this stage into I don't know how frequently it was, but it was at least weekly communication sessions. And the third thing that's very important as well is these are not Like when we go to the Wildwood,
Yeah.
we're thinking, well, we're going to try and contact Tommy,
Yeah.
who is someone who died on the property, or we're trying to talk to the doctor in the basement or whatever. There was no reason to believe that anyone had ever died on their property. They had no reason to believe that. They were basically chipping to the other side of a wall, and passerbys, the spirit team, basically heard them and responded and decided to stay in that area, which I think is very interesting as well. It almost leads to our thought that our worlds are so parallel and there's certain points where things can cross over.
Well, and that's what I wonder, right? It's like, and I use this example a lot. I'm sure people's probably like, man, I'm sick of this guy talking about this. It was like when we were at the Hinsdale house that one night. And I'm sitting on the couch and I'm literally hearing the footsteps right above my head. And then I look over at Jess and I point up and she goes, yeah, I hear that. And I was super excited because I'm like, I'm going to be able to figure out what this is because I've got a camera up there.
Right.
And then we go to that camera and there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't make any sense to me at all.
Right.
So I don't know. It makes me think that, again, there's got to be some type of like an interdimensional thing of some sort.
Right.
And it's able to like work.
I think you're right. And I think that this is sort of like proving that you can wear thin the division between these places.
Yeah. But the question is,
that's what was happening. I think it's by energy transmission from these mediums to the other dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And then the spirit team sort of like using that energy to manifest and do things in that room. They always said about Halloween is the night where the veil between the worlds is thinnest.
Right.
Well, I think any point of the year, if you do it long enough, you can rip a hole in that fabric.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's like when you look at the Hinsdale house as a prime example, right? And the fact that I could hear something that was so blatantly obvious in one direction. It's like at that point, it's no longer a question of, is it a rip in like spatial stuff, right? Or like the part I don't understand is I heard where it was coming from.
Right.
There's only one place it can come from.
Mm-hmm.
To make that noise, the wood has to be pressed down on with weight.
Right.
The fact that on that camera, there's background noise, but there's no footsteps. And the thing that everyone has to understand, it's on a DVR that's time synced.
Right.
Like, it's not like I'm watching one video and I'm like, am I close to 12:05? No, they're all synced with the same exact time. So when I'm looking at the time on this camera, I know if I go to the other camera, it's the same time frame. So the fact that it was so loud that I could hear it on one camera, but not on the place where I heard it coming from. And it'd be different if it was like, okay, I thought I heard it in the kitchen, but the kitchen's 2 rooms away, right? This was right over my head. That's the only thing that was right over my head, which then made me start thinking, was it a case where it's walking on the ceiling, which doesn't make sense either, right? Like it's not the upside down. Yeah. Clearly there's not a Demogorgon up there, but it's, I don't know. It becomes a question of, okay, is it ripping where I'm at and I'm hearing something that's not that close to me? Or are we meant to hear that, but not necessarily supposed to record that?
Right.
I don't know. That's the part I can't ever figure out. And, you know, stuff like that we've ran across where I sit back and I go, what was that? Or even like, I can't remember if we talked about this or not. I'm not going to give too much away, but on our most recent investigation that we did, we both very clearly heard what I believe sounded like a small caliber handgun go off in the room.
Right.
Like you could hear it directly in that room. It's like, okay, well, did a ghost just shoot another ghost in another realm? That don't make no sense.
Well, here's the thing. Through their experiments, they kind of they sort of explained and also demonstrated that the rules that we think exist aren't universal. Like you were saying, well, how could it be that I heard something here, but if I were where it happened, I wouldn't hear it?
Right. Yeah.
Or, that kind of thing. And to us, that doesn't make sense. Now, one of the scientists explained something that's very interesting is we base the entirety of our worldview about what can happen and what can't happen on Newtonian physics.
Yeah.
Right? So Newtonian physics pretty much describes everything, and it works perfect all the time in normal use.
Yeah.
But we've discovered things like quantum physics and stuff where it all falls apart. Those rules don't apply anymore. So we've already learned that everything we thought was a rule in the world is not a rule in the world.
Well, and most of the rules that is there is rules that we made up based on a hypothesis that we have. Like, it's easy to say, well, the sun is light.
Yeah.
But what's light?
Right.
We can see light.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing is we can separate light into their own individual colors.
Mm-hmm.
But we made all that up. What if what we're seeing is not exactly what we assume it to be, even on the simple things, the things that we have every single day, right? Like, here's a great example, right? It's kind of a great example, but it's a little bit left of this, but let's use as an example. When we was at the Wildwood, at this point, and I'm trying to be careful not to give too much stuff away, but we really wanted to try to pinpoint sensors that can go up and down, because my thing is, and even when I've explained the devices that I'm building, everyone's like, well, why are you doing it like that? Or why, there has to be a reason that you're doing it. Is because I'm literally throwing a shotgun. I'm throwing a shotgun shell out. I'm shooting a shotgun with a whole bunch of different sensors to see what moves and what doesn't move. And then the next question becomes, why did it move?
Right.
Right. Like, we take a REM pod on an investigation and it goes off. Why? That's the problem we have right now. This device will just tell me, hey, something changed. It's either temperature in this specific REM pod, but it's either the temperature went up or the temperature went down, or
a walkie-talkie.
I mean, it could be legit anything. And there's no real way of testing and understanding what's truly there. And I think that's the problem that we have in this field. And that's why, even the last time, we brought radiation into it, because I'm like, we've never tested for radiation before.
Right.
We brought, actually, I got them right behind me here. We brought these 2 meters, in which this one, is just a base radiation meter. But, when you turn it on, it gives you every piece of information that you need from a radiation standpoint. I mean, it gives you real-time averages, total dosage, but then it looks at the different type of particle counts. So it's looking at, beta and gamma, and it's looking at all that. But the other piece of device that I thought was super valuable this time around was we brought an EMF that detects EF, MF, and RF, and we could see it in real time to see, okay, we've got EMF, but what EMF do we have, and what's the value in that, right? Nobody really knows this, and that's the frustrating part, is we're all guessing. And that's what makes this field so difficult. So it's like, if this team is going there and doing that, that's amazing, because they're trying to put a science behind it. Now, did they capture any sensor data in any of this?
I don't think so, because that wasn't really as accessible as it was now. And this went on, and I'll give you a spoiler, this went on for 5 years.
Oh, it only went for 5 years?
It went for 5 years, but every single session, had people witnessing it and trying to figure out what was going on.
Why to stop after 5 years?
Just a second. I think that it stopped because someone who was involved with all of these experiments passed away. And they didn't continue after that. I'm going to have to double check that, though.
We got to bring this back.
I know, right? Well, I mean, anyone could bring this back. There's not a certain location. You just need to find, I guess, 2 mediums and a bunch of people.
We're taking applications right now for 2 psychic
I
mediums.
would do this. I would
totally do this, because then here's the thing. With the devices that I'm creating, I'd be able to look at so many points of data every single second.
Right. Exactly.
And it wouldn't be a case of, hey, I saw this or I heard this. It'd be, okay, out of the 35 different points of algorithm that we're building on, what moved?
Right.
How long did it move? Did it climb? Did it decelerate? Was there another great question from a magnetometer standpoint? Like, was there gravitational differences if there was a rip inside of an interdimensional plane?
Right.
That's my hypothesis, is that if there is a rip in space, right? I'm going to call it space, but I'm basically talking about an interdimensional whatever.
Right.
I
the
believe
wall
that,
between the worlds.
Correct. I believe that there has to be some form, there has to be, scientifically and mathematically speaking, there has to be some type of a change in the magnetic field on the X, Y, or Z axis. They're just, everything in my head screams there has to be some change, which is why every device I make will always have a magnetometer, because it's kind of like, Reed Timmer, when he started working with tornadoes, and he's like, I just want to shoot these sensors into a tornado to see what it captures. And people's like, I wouldn't put this in there. I wouldn't put that in there. And he's like, we don't know, because we've never put anything inside of a tornado before. And it's like, I look at this, I have a few theories, and maybe I'm going to die on this hill and put stupid sensors and things that will never do anything. But I believe, and I just added one to the last time we were there, and I was talking about that same sensor before we went there. I believe there has to be something with radiation. And the reason I believe that is, I believe that there has to be, and this is just I could be way off, and I'm fine. I'm not knowledgeable enough to prove or disprove what anyone tells me. I think that one day when we go back and there's enough research, we will find a change in gamma and beta radiation. Because I think if you're ripping into something, those 2 particles would probably be the 2 that I think you'll see measurements in. And I also believe, depending on how you set up your device, I think that there will be a variation in a magnetometer on X, Y, or Z. They're just, maybe I've seen too many sci-fi movies. That just makes the most sense to me. Now, again, we're talking about things that are, they're hokey to a lot of people. And I understand that. The science community is going to say it's hokey. But listen, everything's hokey until you have the data. That's why I want the data. I want the data to give to a scientist and say, here's my experience. This is what I have. Hey, here's video, here's audio, and here's every sensor recording everything every second. Here's all the calibration data. Here's all the 30-minute rolling averages. Here's my algorithm that was able to build in, and here's every sensor that moved within this time frame. And then I want them to look at it and go, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, maybe we got something here.
Now, some things are going to change by default, right? Like a prime example, if you've got, a sensor on there that looks at, let's say, humidity, temperature, and barometric pressure, right? If someone opens or closes a door, I swear I can look at data and go, that is an opening or a closing of a door based on the fact that the pressure changes, More than likely, there's going to be a breeze if the door was close enough, and it's going to cause a slight variation in temperature, but it's going to be a very quick thing. You know, if it's a little bit longer thing and there's a dip, then I sit back and I go, okay, was there like storms or was there a weather event that would cause that? But the key is when you see multiple sensors doing a thing, especially when you get into like gravitational pulls, because I think everyone's like, well, the gravity stays the same all the time. It really doesn't. Like gravity's constantly fluctuating, you know, on all axes all the time. Like if you put a box down, those numbers are going to change all the time. But after a while, you can kind of pick up, okay, it's going to move this much or that much on this axis. And you kind of have a base concept. Like if you do, in my opinion, if you do 60 seconds of analysis, you kind of know the guidelines of where things are going to fall. It's when it goes above or beyond those numbers. That's where the question becomes, man, I wish they had data during that time frame. I would love to see data.
I really think people have to do this again because there wasn't anything particularly special about that group of people.
Yeah.
It was just so methodical. Like I can see people doing this for a couple weeks and then giving it up, but they stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it. They just knew that eventually this was going to have some kind of result, right?
Right. Let me ask a question, and maybe you said this, and if you said this, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to retain a lot of stuff.
Oh, it's okay.
If the people part I can understand, why did they choose this location? It was owned by one of their relatives, right? But it wasn't like someone was like,
it was owned by them.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they was like, this is the old haunted blah, 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 right? This was just a spot that they could all go to.
It was a spot that was easy for them to control, easy for them to get to. Since it's in a cellar, you automatically have 1, 2, 3, 4 walls where you can't really have anything hiding behind.
Yeah.
The ground is solid, so you've only got the roof that people can question. People can go above the ceiling there and make sure there's no hokey pokey stuff going on up there. So they just chose it for that reason.
I would totally try this.
I think if someone was willing to dedicate to it, there's no reason why it couldn't happen again. Got to get a group.
The problem is knowing if someone's truly psychic medium. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's the thing. If I was to ever do that, I'd have to vet the people really well.
That's the thing. You really would have to know because you can't test for that.
No.
Like we got tests for ESP and precognition and that kind of thing. You can't test a medium, really.
Yeah.
So they would also try to teach them, and I swear to you, I'm going to get onto the really miraculous stuff right after this. Mm-hmm. Stuff that's sort of that you're going to be able to see and hear. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest lessons that they showed someone, and this guy was a total skeptic, is they apported a large crystal in the middle of the table, and they asked the person, pick up the crystal. So he picked it up. It's a crystal. Pretty amazing that they were just able to make it appear here. And they're like, put down the crystal. He put down the crystal. And they said, pick up the crystal. And he grabbed the crystal. And though the crystal was still there, his hand went right through it. And then they said, pick up the crystal. Picked it up. It was a normal crystal again. And they said they wanted to demonstrate from this is that while the physical manifestation of something might go, its essence doesn't need to. And that's what the human life and spirit is like.
You know, but we've even mentioned stuff like that. Like when I talk about demonic possession, and how you see things that you think you
Right.
see, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's truly what's happening.
Right.
So,
So do you suspect this is demonic, or because they seem like they were trying to teach a good lesson here?
I don't know. That's the
To
thing,
me, anyway.
right? It's like, I don't know, because it's like, if it's a demonic thing, they're not going to be like, hey, we're demons.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't, right?
That's true.
It's kind of like, you get that message and they're like, hey, I'm with Microsoft support. And then you call them out for like 7 days. You are not Microsoft. And every single time they swear up and down, no, I'm really Microsoft. I'm not a scammer.
Yeah.
Right? Demons are the same way. So it's like, could they potentially give some positives to make you, because in essence, you're feeding into what they want anyway, if it's demonic.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I don't know. I'm super curious though.
I didn't even consider that throughout this, but it is possible.
See, I'm Christian, so by default, I automatically go to this is probably demon.
You Christians are so negative.
I know, man, but listen, we scared of the demons over here, man.
That's true. So basically, it's interesting because a lot of people were their visitors, which they were encouraged to do, were trying to debunk this and figure out how these things were being done. Was there trickery involved? And there was one piece of trickery that did happen.
Oh, yeah? What was it?
And it's kind of funny. The mediums weren't tricking anyone, but one of the people brought in a Sony night sight camera or nightshot camera,
That's
which
what
they were not
used.
supposed to do.
That's what we used in our investigation. Right. Yeah.
And the group said, turn that off because that could affect our experiment. And they said, okay, I've switched it off, but they didn't. And they thought, well, surely we're going to catch some trickery now, because the only reason they need this in the dark is because someone's up to some malarkey here.
Yep.
So the first thing that they caught on the Sony nightshot is that incredibly heavy oak table rose. And they could not see any way that it was being done with the vision from the nightshot. And then it settled back down again. Now, I could think of a lot of ways that could probably be done. Even if you're looking at it, that it might be hard to see. But it didn't stop there. The next was one of the most prolific apportations that has occurred. Flowers and flower petals started to appear and fall on the people in the room. And this was caught on the Sony nightshot.
You've seen the video?
You know the nightshot. Yes, I have. I have seen the video of this. Wow. And you can look all this up. And the video only catches because they were sort of watching the base of the table to see if it was going to rise again.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, petals started falling everywhere before they had a chance to move up. And when the experiment was over and they turned the light on, the room was full of flowers and plants all over the place that had appeared in this locked room in the cellar.
That is so weird.
Just a ton of it. And they were tricked. They didn't even know this was going to happen. So if they were going to do something shifty, you would think nothing would have happened.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that going on, the next thing that the spirit team asked for is, can you bring a camera and some film? Because they saw that these things do appear on camera. Yeah. Because the people admitted that they'd recorded it afterwards. So the spirit team, that's the ghosts, said, bring a camera. And supposedly what happened is the camera would actually move around the room and take pictures. But where it was in total darkness, you'd think, well, you're not going to get any pictures out of it. Like they could hear it winding and clicking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you open the Google Drive, look at what appeared in the perfectly dark room for pictures.
All of these are the pictures that they took?
If you go down to the bottom,
yeah,
these are the earlier ones where it's like scrambled pictures, but there's faces in them.
Yeah.
And then there started to get blurry landscape pictures, and then there's pictures of people's faces that are pretty clear.
Yeah.
And then there's a picture of what looks like the top of a building with maybe clouds around it at the top.
Yeah.
And then the first one, I don't even know what that is. I think it's hands folded over each other.
Mm.
And then the third one is a face trying to manifest out of the film. And then, so these other ones I didn't mention here, people skeptically, of course, said, oh, okay, this is being faked. So what they did next was scientists who were brought to the experiments were asked to bring their own roll of film. It didn't matter what camera it was for. It doesn't matter what type of film it was. Bring it factory sealed to the experiment. And when they brought their film, they would sign it. And the spirit team would put things on that film, that sealed film, and the scientists could take it away and have it developed.
Mm-hmm.
And they were writing these messages on the film itself. Like these are programs in these are poems in various languages, messages. Sometimes there was scenery that was on there. And this is a sealed film that was brought by like 4 or 5 scientists at different times. Like it couldn't have been tampered with. Absolutely impossible.
Well,
unless everyone was in on it.
What's the very last picture here?
The one SDDE default.
Yes.
That was that was not an early one, but that was one where they were trying to manifest their face onto the film.
Yeah,
they hadn't quite got the hang of it.
They manifested a UFO is what they manifested.
I know what you're thinking. I know. Looks like an alien, right?
Yeah.
But they had varying levels of success, but they did this all the time. Like I hope I'm making this clear enough that this film was not opened out of the box, was not opened out of the tube, and was not placed in a camera. It sat there with the person who brought it having their thumb on the top of the box the whole time. And then they simply took it away and had it developed. And these are the things that were appearing on this.
That's so wild.
And look it up. There are thousands of pictures. They demonstrated this for 5 years.
But I guess my question becomes, if the film's not going anywhere, then how are they creating like these landscape photos and stuff like that? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
I think it all has to do with their thought reality of the dimension they're living in. I don't even know if these are real places. I mean, the one on the top row, to me, that domed thing looks like it's above clouds. But I think I could just be seeing things there.
I don't know. I need to play around with this stuff.
Yeah. But I think it's very interesting that the writing is obviously in different like fonts and stuff, and it's over multiple frames of a film. Like it's pretty wild. So that's pretty crazy. I hope you haven't opened the video in there yet.
I didn't know there was a video.
Oh, is there not a video in here?
PNG, 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 PNG. JPEGs.
Oh, maybe not. Well, while we're talking about other things, I'm going to place a video in there that I edited together of some stuff.
Okay.
Where is it? Scole. It won't take long. It's not very big. So, moving on to the next part of this, because I said there was two amazing things with this. They got wind that there was another scientist doing something really amazing on the topic of life after death, but he was in Italy. And his name, let me just scroll down here a little far so I don't get it wrong, was Marcello Bacci. Have you ever heard of this guy?
No, I don't think so.
So, Marcello, years ago, either witnessed or he heard stories of people during the First World War when they were using the old, or Second World War, when they were using the old tube radios. They were getting messages that they thought was secret German transmissions.
Okay.
Now, with these old tube radios, they kept getting them after the war, and they were unable to decipher them. They knew it was people talking, but they couldn't get the frequency just right. They couldn't find out what it was. But he thought about that for a long time, and he thought that during the chaos and carnage of the war, that it was picking up the voices of spirits in these old tube radios. So he got his hands on one, and after working with it for a while, he was able to get voices to communicate through this radio in real time that were intelligent and that would answer questions. And it's not like EVP, where it's hard to understand what they're saying. It's actual voices in the voices that they had when they were alive.
Oh, wow.
Because he's able to contact multiple people. And I want to demonstrate to you how clear these voices were. So do you see a video up there now?
Let me refresh. Yep, the clips.
Yep. I want you to play that.
Group communicate through Bacci's radio.
Manu, are you there? Emily?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, Manu. Thank you, Manu.
After this, scientist Harry Oldfield, a colleague of the Scole Group, attempts further communication.
We would like to ask the question of the appearance of your space.
I can't really answer that.
Can you tell something about Scole?
Did I appear to be aware of what you're doing in direct contact with them?
Thank you. Will the work progress?
Certainly.
Thank you. This is what I needed to know. We wish to know more with respect.
Sometimes when communication with us becomes more difficult.
Using software endorsed by the FBI, Il Laboratorio have conducted voice print analysis. Like a fingerprint, a voice print is unique. It can therefore be used to determine someone's identity with near certainty. They compared voice prints from two audio samples. One was the voice of Chiara Lenzi, recorded before she died. The other came out of Bacci's radio after her death and was clearly recognized by her father. The comparison produced a 97% match. Despite this startling evidence, skeptics claim that the voices could be faked by transmitting them from a remote location. But Dr. Emanuele Toriello, who has been investigating Bacci for decades, believes this is impossible. Dr. Toriello was present during key scientific experiments that he says eliminated any possibility of remote transmission. One of the first of these experiments involved putting Bacci's radio inside a special device that shields it from all radio signals. Yet still, the voices continued.
I couldn't be more excited.
Oh, that's so wild. And he did this with just tubes.
Yeah. And in fact, in other experiments, so this is the one I told you about earlier, where someone who worked communications in the aerospace program, someone who worked on the shuttles, which is the most advanced communication that human beings have ever done,
Yeah.
came in and experimented on this, and he removed parts of the tube that he thought could be used to transmit sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
The voices still came through.
See, I don't know much about that technology. I've used radios that's had it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but I've never, like, that's not something that I've ever experimented with or even tried to
Right.
create
Now,
anything from.
they also, just to make sure, they placed other radios around and actually inside his radio.
Yeah.
So if there was any transmission at all, they'd pick it up, and his would continue to do voices while they picked up only static.
What's happened to this radio? Where's this radio at?
So far still exists. Like he so the previous experiment was 5 years. He did this for 15 years.
Wow.
Is
he
and
still
had
alive?
Tons of people. He is not still alive.
Ugh.
Now, some people have suspected that he was a medium and the radio wasn't doing too much, but then that wouldn't really explain how people heard that during World War II through those tube radios. But you heard the 97% match,
Yeah,
right?
Same match, yeah.
So here's what the word of the law says on this. Voice verification systems can achieve accuracy rates of exceeding 90 to 99%. Admissibility. There are questions regarding its reliability when used alone. So voice print evidence is not uniformly admissible in all courts. It is admissible in most courts. However, in the courts that it's not admissible on its own, judges require people to accompany it with oral listening tests to make sure that other people agree with it. But this is admissible in court. So that's how much we believe in the evidence that this thing has produced.
I wonder if he's got a schematic of this radio that he built.
I'm not sure.
Guess I'm sitting here researching if I can buy a tube radio.
I'm sure you can.
I'm looking at it.
But
I'm about to order one right now.
Recorded all of these sessions over years and years. Near the end of his life, he went through a certain point where they stopped responding to him for about 9 months. And then they started again, and he didn't know why that was. And that's a mystery that was never solved. But I think it was in the clips I sent you. The spirits that he was talking about were aware of the Scole Project's work in the spirit team.
That's so wild.
Isn't that wild? So all the testing on that, they were never able to prove any kind of trickery was going on with that. I mean, in a Faraday cage, how would you even?
You wouldn't be able to
do that.
Not with radio stations or anything else.
Right, exactly. So the Bacci case was tested by David Fontana, a psychology professor, Montague Keene, who was another scientist, Annabelle Cardosa, one of the best known ITC researchers. Mario Salvatore Festa was the professor of radiological physics. Carlos Traina was a pretty famous engineer that conducted technical tests and participated in radio evaluations. Franco Santi was a specific radio technician who examined the circuitry to see if there was any problems. Paolo Presi, he was the aerospace engineer who worked on the space shuttles. He examined possible engineering explanations. But basically no one was ever able in those 15 years to debunk it. And the spirits he worked with and the spirit team were aware of each other. And I think that's the biggest connection.
Man.
It seems like there was a concerted effort in that spirit dimension that they wanted people on Earth to know that life carries on.
Right. But then the question becomes, could it also just be a case where you're pushing attention into that area and that's where you're getting it from, right? It's like if they're, this level of knowing, right? Like if they're able to manifest stuff, you can't tell me that it's not a case where they may also have some concepts or ideas about what the person's thinking or doing. So it's like if this person,
understanding.
So like, let's use, for example, if you were on another parallel universe and you didn't necessarily, you didn't know me, but you knew that I had an expressed interest in proving something and you did from your side versus the average person is just walking around, just meandering around life, right? Then maybe you would be willing to do that.
Right. Okay.
There's got to be like a desire is basically what I'm getting at, or I'm trying to get to anyway.
Yeah. But in the end, neither of these cases, as related as they are, as long as they went on 5 years and 15 years, or as much as they were investigated, how open they were in investigations, neither of these were ever conclusively exposed as fraud. In fact, no parts of them were exposed as fraud.
That is so wild to me.
So this case has really made me wonder about, is there life after death?
Well, I would definitely say there is, but
yeah,
it's because it's me.
Oh, I almost forgot the part I promised you and almost didn't deliver.
What?
So there's a famous medium at the time named Alison Dubois. That whole show, Medium, which was a hit show, so I'm surprised you never heard of it, was based off of. When one of the main people involved in both of these cases passed away, before he passed, they asked him what did he hope happened to him after he passed away, and he said, "I hope it's oblivion." He says, "I hope I don't exist any further."
Wow. Why?
And well, he didn't like the idea of continuing on. Some people like the idea of final death, which I don't, but some people do. But the funny thing is Alison Dubois, they brought in as she was sort of like a famous medium at the time, and asked them if they could get anything off of him. And apparently she contacted him and he described to her step by step his final moments, which were not well known. Because he actually passed away at a conference, leaving the stage, and died on the stairs to the stage.
Oh, wow.
And she said it step by step, and she actually described the banners that were above, which was carving in the building of like a battle with people on horses and spears and stuff like that. So apparently he didn't get his wish. He did survive on to the afterlife.
That's so crazy. Something to it. I don't know. It makes me wonder though.
It's a lot to think about.
Like what's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I highly encourage everyone who's listening to this to look up all the recordings, all the images, everything you can find about this. It's fascinating, and it might change your worldview or your afterlife view or your view of other worlds. I don't know.
It's going to change something is what Nick's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at vintage radios. I want to see if I can get my hands on some freaking tubes now. I wonder if I can build that. I wonder if I can build something.
Maybe. Someone's built it before. You can build it next.
That's what I'm saying. It's just radio tubes. Like I've not messed with them. I know they're high voltage and they can be a little dangerous, but I mean,
well, be careful.
I wonder if there's a schematic of this thing.
Scole people to contact you.
I know. Exactly. I wonder if there's like a schematic somewhere for that. I don't know. Kind of curious.
Well, these are they're essentially the ones that they were using in World War II. So probably the schematics are all over the place by now.
Oh, he didn't modify it?
One. No, he didn't modify it at all. According to him, he just put a little recorder on the top of it.
Man, I need to look at what he did because I wonder if it was AM, FM, if he was using an antenna.
I don't know how those work.
What's that?
Like, I don't really know how the tube ones work differently. I know it was a big radio.
Well,
you might be able to find out the exact model.
It goes back to like, a conversation you and I've had before too. It's like, I think sometimes on some of this old media that there's a chance that maybe it's able to do something that new media is not capable of anymore. That's why I want to go back to like high 8 and like maybe micro VHS or even cassette tapes. We've kind of experimented with everything just in the interims, but I mean, the tubes are significantly different because, it's taking things completely different from a voltage regulation to create the audible in that. At least that's my understanding.
So I was able to find 2 pieces of information that might help you.
Yep.
The radio was a Nordmende Fidelio radio.
Okay.
Which I'll pop in the chat so you can look up later. And he primarily relied on this frequency.
Oh, he put the actual frequency in there?
Yeah. Like a lot of this was documented, so it didn't take me very long to find this stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna buy some radios, boys and girls. I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna see if I can buy that, and then maybe a few tubes, and just see.
That is definitely the radio he was using. That or a variation of it.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. 100%. I'm gonna do this. Like I'm so gung ho about this right now.
Shot us in other directions.
Yeah, because no one in paranormal is doing that right now that I know of. So we're already going back vintage on stuff.
I know. I'm shocked and irritated that this isn't bigger news and that I've never heard of this.
It goes back to everything else. It's the newer, better. I don't know. I yell about a lot of people in this space.
Well, I mean, this should be mainstream news, is what I mean.
Yeah,
like this shouldn't even be like niche paranormal news.
No, but
So I don't get it.
it goes
I'm
back
mad
to
at this.
it goes back to everything else though, right? Like people always goes, well, it's fake, it's not real, And then what do? That's why I'm trying to prove it on my side. It's like, if no one else in our communities
Right.
want to do it, I'll do it. I'm definitely going to, 100%, I will have a tube radio within a month. And I'll probably have spare
hopefully that
vacuum
one.
tubes. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Because if I can find it, I'm all in. Unless you're selling it. And then we'll negotiate, because I'm not going to pay whatever you're going to give me.
Then I'm not that interested.
I'm not
gonna
really
lowball you
that
a little bit.
interested in that specific model. I don't think it would need to be that specific model though, because I don't know. I'm going to look. I'm going to see what I can find. I'm going to see if I can get hands on it.
Not necessarily. But I mean, if it worked for one guy, especially that clearly.
Well, that's the thing. Like if you've got the capability of having the exact product, but if not, if I can get my hands on a schematic somewhere and then try to figure out something from I mean, hell, I could build one if I've got the schematic. Granted, if some of the parts are still around, you know what I'm saying? Like that the beauty of that technology is it's very rudimentary, very rudimentary. The problem is they don't make everything exactly the same way. So it's not like I can go to Micro Center and just pick up whatever it is, even
a tube.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably buy a lot of vacuum tubes and stuff like that for it. So, my guess is probably not a lot of people's going and buying that stuff. So the sellers that's probably selling it, they just want to get rid of it. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm 1,000% going to buy one. Yeah, I'm 1,000% gonna buy one for sure, guaranteed. You're gonna see it within a month, unless again you're selling it. And if you're selling it, I'm not really that interested. But if you got an extra, I might buy
it. Well, if you want that particular one, could be a little costly.
How much is it? Did you find one?
I'm looking. I see one on Etsy for $3,216.
Oh, good God. Okay, well, listen. That might be a little out of my range.
But on the other hand, on Wednesday, April the 8th, one sold for $79.95 on eBay.
What? On eBay?
So
that's what I'm saying. There's gotta be like, how many people are looking for that? Like you have to specifically be looking for that.
Yeah.
I just got to get ahead of everyone
else.
There's
a parts only one for $95
on eBay.
Parts only though, so it's not working.
That's if they even know how to use it. That's the thing. It could be something
simple. This is literally the same one.
That's what I'm saying. It can you can literally send me that one. Is that in the States you're seeing it at?
Here. It is in US dollars, so it must be. Yeah, check it out.
Send it to me, because they may not even understand what they have or how to check it. I'm totally going to check it.
Everyone's listening like, what are these guys doing right now?
I'm sorry.
Trying to buy a radio, guys.
Trying to buy a dog. Do you want to know about the afterlife or no?
Yeah.
All right,
Bert's
Nick.
getting rattled. He's like throwing stuff.
I know. Listen, I just lost two things. You want to open a box, Nick?
Oh, I forgot all about it. I got too excited about this whole episode.
I grabbed one.
I got one.
Let me pick up what I dropped. You guys aren't allowed to see it. I'm working on stuff in the background.
Man, I got so distracted I completely forgot the part that I normally look forward to the most.
I know. It's because we're trying to talk to dead people, Nick.
That's right.
We're like that kid.
I hear dead people.
Yeah, exactly. I hear them. I hear dead people.
Well, I think it's your turn first this time.
I have Stranger Things. Oh, I can already see who it is.
Is that Erica?
That is Erica. We got an Erica, boys and girls.
All right, I'm back on the Wednesday boxes, and I have this one. It's Enid.
Oh, yeah, you do got that one. Well, listen, hopefully y'all enjoy the podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the doggone subscribe because you're going to want to be here when I find this freaking radio and we're going to build it. We're going to talk to dead people. You know how cool it would be to actually have one of those and then just let it play and do like a live stream.
That would, oh man, I would be so down for that.
That would be sick. So you're going to want to subscribe to that because listen, hey, we get this bad boy running. I'll put it back there. I'll put a mic on it and then we will see what we can get. But listen, don't be stingy. Tell your friends about us too. Until we see you in the next podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye from the other side.